happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. There are so many families that have at least one very frightened human being, and that sort of ruins it for everybody. It takes a family of the unfrightened to get together, I guess, this Thanksgiving. Everybody has to be unfrightened. How many families have that? Maybe we'll cover that at some point, maybe the third hour. I'm very curious what the percentage of families that normally get together and friends on Thanksgiving will be doing it this year. So for many people, there will be two Thanksgivings without family. For no good reason. Just for the record, my friends, whatever you want to say, and I appreciate what you have to say, of course, more people died of COVID in the year of people being vaccinated than in the year of nobody being vaccinated. What do you say to that? You can't say it's the pandemic of the unvaccinated, because everybody was unvaccinated the first year. Should have had far more deaths than the year when so many are vaccinated. Yeah, a lot of questions aren't there. I'll tell you what's on my mind, though, even more than that, and that's been on my mind from the first day of lockdown. Why don't they call the attack in Wisconsin a terrorist attack? Because they're so corrupt. Remember Nidal Hassan? How's that for a mind scratcher? A memory jogger. He was the Army, was he an officer? I think he, yeah. Who one day at Fort Hood just murdered 13 of his fellow service people or servicemen at in the Army. Do you remember? We don't have it, Sean, do we? In the annals of the Dennis Prager show, Chris Matthews and others who denied that it was a terror attack. The man was a radical Muslim and randomly murdered 13 of his fellow soldiers. And no. I remember, was it Geraldo Rivera? I don't want to blame someone for something they didn't do. But I believe it was, and if it wasn't, I'm truly apologetic, who said, well, maybe he had a headache. Somebody said it. I thought it was Geraldo, maybe not.
Yeah, toothache.
Toothache? Oh, yes, toothache. The toothache to murder line is very direct. Only what the left wants to do, the left is the other country. We have two countries, ladies and gentlemen. They just haven't separated officially. But we have two countries. And in the left country, you lie for anything that you want to pursue. It's just a given. So, of course, it's not a terror attack. A white-hating black mows down whites, and it's not 2 days after the verdict, and it's not an act of terror. That's the world we're supposed to believe in. And I suspect that this will not be in the news so fast because it was a black slaughtering whites. Had it been the other way around, it would be the dominant theme of the mainstream media. Dominant. And another example of how blacks have so much to fear from white people. Right? But they don't. Blacks have very little to fear from white people. That's the irony, including white policemen. That's if you live in the realm of truth. But if you live on the left, you believe what you want to believe.
You should read from your own column.
Read from my own column?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is from 2009. Thank you for sending it. Intimidated Americans claim not to know Hassan's motives. One reason here is, so 2009 is 12 years ago. That's when it happened. For the record, I know this will sound self-aggrandizing. I'll risk it. I'm right nearly all the time when I take controversial positions. They turn out to be right. And the reason they turn out to be right is A, I'm a clear thinker. I use reason. And I'm crazy about truth. Oh, and it doesn't hurt. I'm not scared. One reads and hears with increasing disbelief and anger that we don't know the motive or motives of Nidal Hassan, the Army major who fired over 100 shots at his fellow American soldiers in order to murder and maim as many as possible. Hassan ended up allegedly murdering 13 people, but government and Army spokesmen, this is back in 2009. And the mainstream media claim they just can't figure out why he did this. They are, however, certain that it was not an act of terrorism. Sunday's New York Times Week in Review article about Nidal Hassan was titled, "When Soldiers Snap." The gist of the article was that Major Hassan had snapped, even though he had never been in combat. He snapped in advance. Just 2 sentences in the article were devoted to the possibility that his motives were in any way related to his Muslim faith. As Chris Matthews put it, I did remember right. It's unclear if religion was a factor in this shooting. To Matthews, not only was it unclear if Hassan's Islamic faith was the factor, it was unclear if it was even a factor. Likewise, on NPR, Tom Gilton offered the novel explanation that Hassan, who has never been in combat, may have suffered from pre-traumatic stress disorder. I now remember that. We had a ball with that one. Because he anticipated having traumatic distress. Was he an example, Gilton seriously asked, of these soldiers who are literally freaked out by what they are likely to face when they are deployed? And on Fox News, Geraldo Rivera said, hey, I was right on that. I don't know what motivates him. As far as I know, he's a sociopath. He's a criminal. He could have had a toothache and gone off because of that. You remembered toothache, I remembered Rivera. Good team. The deaths...
I can't find either of them.
Can't find either of what?
The 2 clips you're talking about.
Oh, the clips? It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's 9 years ago. The deaths and maiming at Fort Hood are heartbreaking and angering, but ultimately far more injurious to America than the act of evil that caused those deaths and injuries is the massive self-deception American society engages in out of fear of being called bigoted, racist, or Islamophobic. Any American who is not prepared to lie to himself has reason to believe that Hassan's religious views were prominent, if not exclusive, factors explaining why he slaughtered fellow American soldiers. The motives appear as clear as any could be. Chuck Medley, Fort Hood's director of emergency services, told Reuters that Hassan yelled Allahu Akbar, the Arabic incantation of Allah is the greatest, yelled by Islamic terrorists before they slaughter people just before the shooting. Dr. Val Fennell told the Associated Press that he and other classmates participating in a 2007-2008 master's program with Hassan at the Uniformed Services University had complained about his comments, including that the war on terror was a war against Islam. Okay, see a pattern here? That wasn't an act of terror. No. Every one of you would bet your life savings that if a white did the same exact thing to blacks, it would be called terror. 1-8 Prager 776.
The Dennis Prager. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
One more time, President Biden.
Conversations around those kitchen tables that are both profound as they are ordinary. How do I cross a bridge in a snowstorm? What happened? No, think about it. You know, you're in a situation, what happens if the bridge collapses and there's a fire on the other side? It's going to take 10 miles longer to get to the fire. People could die. I mean, this is real. This is real stuff.
Now, I originally suggested hashtag snowstorm fire bridge collapse. Here I was. I had worked all day on the president's remarks. I found this bit of gold, alerting the country to the impending massive cycle of snowstorms, fires, and bridge collapses, and trucks that can't get anywhere. And I thought to myself, if I let the country know first, I'll get the credit for this. If you're driving today, would you let me know where the snowstorm fire bridge collapse is? 1-800-520-123.
If you're going across the bridge, we want to hear from you to see if that bridge has indeed caught fire in a snowstorm.
If you're on any bridge anywhere, or collapsed, and you see a house anywhere burning, stop and help. We have many stories of heroes who have done the same thing. There was one in New York yesterday. A guy was running past a house that nobody knew was on fire, and he saved all the pets. He's a hero. So you be a hero today when, we'll call it a Biden event. Whenever we have a Biden event, you need to stop. I don't know how you get across the river. How are we going to get across the river, Generalissimo, if the bridge is down?
I have no idea.
When was the last bridge collapse? I asked you last night to research bridge collapses. Right? Bridge collapses aren't funny, but I think that was the last one.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
What, is he charged with first-degree murder?
That's right, 2 counts.
How is that possible? It's an altercation. I mean, first-degree murder is where you're like, I'm going to murder this person and go to their home with, you know, not some sort of bar fight gone wrong.
Yeah, so you're right, actually. That would be, what you're talking about would potentially be either voluntary manslaughter.
Yeah, that's what I never understood about this.
Or second-degree murder because it was more indiscriminate. What they're saying is, what the prosecution's argument is that Kyle Rittenhouse brought his gun because he intended to murder these BLM protesters and that he had a vengeful intent. Now, what's interesting to me is that the prosecution just a few minutes ago before I came on the show just rested in this case after about a week and a half of testimony. They did not present a single shred of evidence that Kyle Rittenhouse showed up with intent to hurt anyone.
Well, but this is what I can't understand, is that the judge, the pretrial, arguments, because this is just, you have months to submit, motions to dismiss. You're trying to tell me no one looked at this? They say, wait a second. You're charging a guy who got in an altercation was, by the way, the guy that Kyle Rittenhouse killed in self-defense was like a child rapist or something, right? He was like a child pedophile or something. Is that right?
Multiple count child rapist. And honestly,
I'm not saying he deserves to die because of it, but
right.
Let's
the
just
details of that case, if anyone wants to see it, it's absolutely horrific.
This is not Gandhi, okay? Let's just.
But what's interesting, though, what's actually relevant to this is that he had just been released from a hospital where he was being held on a psychiatric hold.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
I love bringing Job Creators Network to your attention, the fighters for small businesses in America. I am not in a small business. However, my understanding of America's recovery of its greatness lies in part, large measure, in the productivity and success of small business. As small business goes, America goes. I do believe that. They fight for them. All they want is your name. And obviously any support, and I don't mean financial, that you can give them. They're not asking for a donation. They just would like you to sign up. Job Creators Network. They're now filing notice with the 6th Court of Appeals about asking the court for a final resolution of the stay on vaccine mandates. JCN is demanding the president cease and desist pressuring small business. Join Job Creators Network to help small business owners fight this illegal mandate. This is the website, blockthemandate.com. blockthemandate.com. Please do it. You got to help the fighters. This is it. It's good people to either do nothing, fight, or help the fighters. Don't do nothing. Help them. And it's not even financial. blockthemandate.com. Very good. It's really eerie. This was exactly also November. It was November of 2009, and they were denying then, and I was calling them out on it. My assumption is that the elite media lie on any controversial subject. I don't think they lie on, let's say, as I often use, and as an example, a tornado in El Salvador. I can rely on the mainstream media. On anything left, right, they lie, by omission or commission. The speed with which the chief of police in Waukesha lied, or even if you don't think he lied, the speed with which he came to the conclusion, oh, this is not an act of terror. How the hell do you know that? A white-hating black radical mows down whites with his SUV 2 days after the Kyle, what's his list? Rittenhouse verdict. And you're sure it's not an act of terror. Does half the country believe this? This is what I wonder. Does half the country believe it's not an act of terror? But you know who are terrorists? Parents who yell at school board meetings. They're terrorists. The people, everybody who went on January 6th to the Capitol is a terrorist.
Yeah.
They didn't kill a single human being, but they're terrorists.
Didn't have a weapon.
Didn't have a weapon.
They didn't have a gun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, all right, didn't have guns. They had umbrellas. Whoops. All right, that was very charming. On rare occasions, I do that. Oh, wow. Okay. Tom in Illinois, Blue Island. I love that. I would like to live in a place called Blue Island. I'm not sure I want to
Dennis.
live in.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How did it get the name Blue Island?
Well, Dennis, I spoke to you about almost a year ago, and I believe you said either the man you call the living martyr was from Chicago, or
yes, that is correct. He was. Yes, right.
It's just south. It's the first suburb south once you exit Chicago.
Just one more question: is it an island?
No, and if I got a 30-second, a friend who's a doctor, he lived in Arizona, and he wanted to do his residency in Chicago because of the trauma, the reputation the trauma centers had, and he thought Blue Island sounded like a nice place to live, and it is a nice place to live, but not for a doctor, Dennis.
Okay, fair enough. All right, what's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Well, Dennis, a couple quick things. So if you were to say percentage, I believe 20% of 20% of the United States believes this stuff. I think you have 50 or 60 that knows it's crazy, and then you have the other 25 that don't care because they get their benefits out of being a Democrat. But so I think a high percentage of people know what's going on. And I was in Kenosha last week, and talk about being overplayed by the media. Was that ridiculous? The reason I called, sir, there was a movie in the late 80s, early 90s, a goofy movie with an old wrestler named Roddy Piper. It was called They Live, about aliens coming down. And they had these crazy glasses that everyone could see what they were up to. Only certain people had them. And that's how I feel when you're dealing with these leftists. They see someone like you, someone like Rush Limbaugh, someone like Larry Elder, down the line. You are the guys that see what they're up to, and that's why you men are so dangerous to them and need to be dealt with accordingly.
Okay, thank you. It was meant partially as a compliment, but the fact is I don't take it as a compliment, even though it is partially, but I take it as a description of fact. That is correct. Every anti-leftist, that's all you have to be. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative. Every anti-leftist who has a following, in fact, every anti-leftist who has two people following them. I mean that sincerely. Most people are not published. Most people do not give speeches. Most people do not have a radio show. Most people don't have a TV show. However, everyone who is anti-left, look, the people who spoke up at school board meetings. The fact that any of us exist is very disturbing to people on the left. We must be throttled. That is what they and they're right. I don't mean throttled in a sense of violence. Throttled in the sense of not allowed to have a following. But I do believe it is growing. I have never, ever patronized you with, cheerful comments to get you to feel better about the future. I don't do that. I am, as one caller said, transparent, and I intend to remain such. But I do believe more and more Americans are understanding the most important thing you can understand. Everything the left touches, it destroys.
Streaming on Salem Now.
You called your son, and you personally promised him you would be here.
Lucas, I don't know how to help you.
Your daddy loves you, you gotta know it, pal.
Do you feel the love?
Prayer is a powerful thing, Ethan. It really does work, if you believe.
What reason does he have to care about some guy who's supposed to be his dad, but he's never around? I can't do it again. I'm not ready for this, man.
I'm done with you.
We all deserve a second chance. Right, Ethan?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
And also, the bill would create more than 150 new government programs at a time when the government can't even manage the programs it has on the books. It's absolutely insane. I am imploring my colleagues in swing districts, so-called blue dog Democrats, moderate Democrats, if for no other reason than I'm appealing to their own political survival instincts, walk away from this bill before it's too late. This is an incredible act of hubris on the part of the Democrats right now, and it is bad for America.
So BBB is $2 billion for tree equity, doubling the size of the IRS. And what's the third takeaway? Because you got to define a bill by its most absurd provisions. And so we've got doubling the IRS size, tree equity. What's number 3?
I think the Civilian Climate Corps is a great encapsulation.
I think you're right. And there are really 300,000 people in that?
That's what's been estimated. This is AOC's signature provision. She wants a bunch of unemployed baristas to become government-paid civilian activists running around the country doing God knows what at the taxpayer.
I mean, is it outlined? Did they tell us what the Civilian Conservation Corps is going to do?
Not in any detailed or meaningful sense. And because we haven't had a meaningful committee process, no one's even able to ask basic questions in a public setting and demand answers from, let's say, the executive branch agencies that would be in charge of overseeing these brand new programs. So the whole
that was my next question. Who gets to oversee the tree equity money?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Figure, if you don't know Ami Horowitz, there are 3 possibilities. Thank you. I can't even hear myself. All right. There are 3 possibilities if you don't know who Ami Horowitz is. 1, you have been in a nuclear submarine for many years. 2, you've been comatose. And I can't even think of a third. How's that, Ami Horowitz, for a new introduction of you?
I love it.
Okay. Listen, have a great day, a wonderful Thanksgiving.
See you later, buddy.
All I wanted to do is really introduce you. That was it. Ami Horowitz, let me tell you something. I watched your latest video, and I said to my beloved, whom you know well, Alan, that even cracked me up. It even almost cracked Alan up, which is, as you know, a major achievement. Anyway, I told my wife that all your videos are great, and I hate to say this is the best, because I know when people say to me after a speech, "Oh, that was your best speech I ever heard," and I'm thinking, well, thank you, but they're all good. So if I say this was the best video, you're entitled to think, what are you talking about? They're all good. But nevertheless, this stands out. So, folks, let me just set the agenda and then have Ami. Ami lives for masochistic reasons in Manhattan. And he asked people if the higher rates of obesity in the black population are a result of white racism. Just random people on the streets of New York. The beauty of what he did was that he asked whites and then he asked blacks. And I'll let you take away. I won't take away the punchline. Go ahead.
So, right. So the setup is even better than that. I just asked them, so it is a fact that there is a higher level of black obesity than there is white obesity across the country. Not to say there isn't white obesity. There's massive obesity across the country, but there's higher rates in the black community. So I actually asked them why. I didn't even feed them the line, is it racism? I just asked them, what's the reason for the higher levels of obesity? And they went directly to the R word, right? Because, of course, everything is racist.
Oh, wow. So I misstated it to a certain extent. It's more dramatic than I said. They volunteered it's racism. You didn't ask if it's racism.
Correct. And as somebody said beautifully as the first person, the first thing we had in the video was they said everything is connected to racism. Everything is racist. So, yeah, that was the setup. Because, of course, look, as we all know, the what has become part of the left, the dogma of the left is that the black people have no agency, right? They are victim of circumstance and nothing more. The patronizing of black people by the left is sick. And one of my favorite types of videos are these videos where I deal with how the left views black people. The people there are there ostensibly to protect, right? Which, by the way, in and of itself is bigoted, that they have to be there to protect. But the white savior complex that the black left has is astonishing, and this video absolutely sets it up. And time after time, person after person, they said to me that and they would give the craziest, like I asked them, well, why is it racist, right? And the reasons they gave were insane. A number of people actually said, a number of them said, well, people get fat because they stress eat. I said, okay. And because black people have to deal with racism on a daily basis, they stress eat on a daily basis. That's how insane it went. And then it went from insane to the racist when I asked them, hey, well, isn't there any personal responsibility involved with choices? And they looked at me and they said, no. With black people, there is no personal responsibility. There are no choices. They can't make choices. Personal responsibility, you ready for this, is part of white privilege and of white supremacy. That's what personal choice is. So after, of course, they said all this, and of course, and to add one more thing, they said to me,
wait, don't add it yet because I got to take a break. Where can we have it? It's up at DennisPrager.com, his video, and at AmiHorowitz.com. This is so telling. The punchline is yet to come. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to tell it to you now. There is still a punchline. ReliefFactor.com, ladies and gentlemen. That's a punchline? Yeah. That is interesting. I didn't think of it as such. It's a cure line. It's an incredible product. It's sort of a magical pill, to be honest, because in at least 70% of people, which is an amazing thing, it's hard to get rid of pain. It works. And you will know, they say, within 3 weeks if it works. So they give you a special cheap 3-week price. The 3-week quick start's $19.95. Doesn't work in 3 weeks, cancel the order. Simple as that. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384.
The Dennis Prager Show. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Last night, the New York York Times ran a headline, social spending infrastructure advances in-house. And I thought to myself, when did socialism go from big government to social spending infrastructure? Social spending infrastructure doesn't mean anything. It's never been a term of art. It doesn't have any meaning. It's a cover term for a vast hose of money on everything. This isn't going to get through the Senate, is it?
Oh, no, I don't think this is going to get through the Senate. And the infrastructure bill got through, but that's going to be about it on these big spending programs. And Pelosi and her crew want $4 trillion in spending. And of course, I get it. Pelosi wants to pass this thing so that she can be an ambassador and head to Rome. What they're trying to do is cast one vote. And in that one vote, they want to take control of your kids, control of education, control of your health care, federalizing elections, changing immigration policy, then more provisions of the Green New Deal and a socialist economy.
Are you telling me that Speaker Pelosi, we're gonna visit her on the Pope? Is that what you're telling me?
We're hearing that is the goal. I don't talk to her, but what we're hearing is that she is looking forward to becoming an ambassador.
Now, look, Francis and I don't agree on much, but we cannot do that to the Pope.
Keep up.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here with the, I was about to say great, but, I don't like his taste in cigars. Other than that, he is great. Is that all right? Did he hang up on me just for saying that?
I don't like that. I don't like that.
I know that. I know. That's why
Go back to the first one. No.
All right.
Not acceptable. And not even true, actually.
Well.
Falsehood.
Fine. I'm glad to hear that. I mean it, because we smoke cigars together often.
Yes.
Ami Horowitz makes gutsy, brilliant videos. How long is the average video?
It depends. If it's a short form video, like one of these Man in the Street or a stunty one, then I would say 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 6 minutes. And then if I do more of an in-depth documentary, like the Black Lives Matter video we spoke about, that's probably more like a 15-minute, 20-minute video.
Wait a minute. The one I watched just now, the latest one about black obesity, is three minutes?
No. That one, I said 3 to 5. This one, I think that's 5:18 to be exact.
It shows you, which of course we have truly shown at PragerU, the amount of information one can derive in 5 minutes belies one's intuition. It's counterintuitive how much you can learn in 5 minutes. Okay, anyway. So folks, Ami, for reasons only the Lord knows, lives in Manhattan, and which is great for the videos because he's in the center of college graduates who are stupid. And he asked people, why do you believe there are greater rates of obesity in black America than white America, among blacks than among whites? Everyone, now, by the way, I always ask you this, and I feel that I owe it to the audience. You did not get any response other than what we see on the video?
Now, in this case, the answer is yes. That was total unanimity on the response that I got. Having said that, in general, I only show the majority response. So if 75% respond in one way, I'll show the 75%.
Okay.
In this particular case,
it was 100%.
I didn't come across a single person who said
no.
that
You didn't. Wait. Forgive me. I'm interrupting, but you didn't come across a single white person.
A single white person, or single person I interviewed on the left, who had a different opinion than the one that we show in the video, that black obesity is solely due to racism.
Okay, and now, my friends, as promised to you, the punchline. Go ahead. This was brilliant. This was the brilliant thing that he did.
Oh, thank you. Feel free to use that word anytime you want.
Thank you.
So after we hear these insane, and I would even argue certainly bigoted responses, if not racist responses, to my questions about black obesity, and with them ending with, or the way I crafted it was, hey, there are no healthy food choices in the black communities, right? There are no. They kept going back to Whole Foods. There are no Whole Foods there. Then we cut to me introing that I'm in the middle of the heart of Harlem in New York, and the camera pans up, and I'm in front of what? A Whole Foods.
Yeah, that was great. That was just great. A Whole Foods right in the middle of Harlem. After the white said they don't have any, the largest Whole Foods in Manhattan. They live. Every single leftist lives in a make-believe world. If the moment you leave make-believe, you become a liberal or a conservative. You are no longer a leftist.
That's correct. So I then began to ask black people, right? Because I think the people who would happen to know best how certain things affect the black community, well, who would it be? I don't know. Let's just say black people themselves. And they were dumbfounded, gobsmacked. But I would tell them that white leftists believe that obesity is due to racism. In fact, they accept the premise that black obesity is higher because they're in touch with the reality. And they, person after person, would say to me, "Are you the only reason why
they laughed at you? They laughed at me. Every black he interviewed either laughed or just seriously dismissed the notion that white racism is responsible for black obesity." I mean, they just said basically, why don't they just eat better? Why don't they exercise? Why don't they? Of course. Now, by the way, just for the record, there are people who are obese, and it's not because they're eating Dunkin' Donuts by the dozen. I just want to make that clear. But that's true for whites and blacks. But to the extent that it is, what he's illustrating, Ami, is the white liberal, and I think liberals would join leftists on this, dismissal of black, as you put it, agency.
Yes.
That's and blacks don't. That's the point.
That's correct, and which makes the look. And if you want to look at it in a larger framing, it does confound us, you and I, and certainly most people in the conservative world, about why the black community continues to support Democratic policies, and that's a whole different discussion. But the point is that when you see the disconnect between left and black is when you see the opportunity to separate the black community from the Democratic Party, which has been taken over by leftists, right? What I told you now, with the video that I'm showing, is becoming, this is not the domain of just a small fraction of the left. This is becoming, as all hard leftists thought is becoming, it is mainstreamed into the bloodstream of the American left and the Democratic Party. You're seeing it more and more often, and that's the larger point and the more important point.
All right, so you need to do the same video and ask a whole bunch of whites, only whites, the same question about black obesity, and then ask them how would you characterize your politics? And then show not just this time you show the difference between whites and blacks. Blacks having the healthier response. Show one between left and right. If you could find any conservatives in Manhattan, that might be a challenge. Folks, see the video at DennisPrager.com. Ami Horowitz is an asset to the United States of America.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
Streaming on Salem Now.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
The only way we separate the good ideas from the bad ideas is to be free to say whatever we want about them.
There's no free speech for fascists.
Your posts on Facebook, Twitter, and social media will be saved to shame.
Creating an atmosphere of fear and repression, and it's gonna bust.
You cannot think differently.
It makes it difficult for you to learn from other people.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Friends, hi there. Male-female hour is coming up. Let's see here. Mike in Orange County. I'm going to summarize some calls. Don't hang up. Julius is about to hang up. One of my left-wing listeners, and I'm grateful for that. You are not a threat to anyone on the left, is what he told the screen. I am not. I could only say that the New York Times, for example, described PragerU as the titan of the right. Just titan. And about 2 weeks ago. Okay, fine. Then
All right, this is not worth pursuing. Duke in Columbus, Ohio, the Charlottesville car attack was considered terrorist. One person was killed. And by the way, did the trial ever arise? Is man ever put on trial? In Charlottesville, someone was killed when this...
Yeah, he was very convicted.
He was convicted of what? Was he convicted of intentional? Did they say it was intentional?
Yeah.
Right. So that's terrorism, and one person was killed. And it might, well, if it was intentional, it could be terrorism. Mike in Orange County says that he disagrees. The word terrorist is losing its meaning. The purpose of the word, and I wish we had more time, Mike. You probably have something very good to say. Terrorism is an act that is meant to instill terror in a specific group. That's what I would assume terrorist means. And so I believe that when you target a group and hope to instill fear in other members of the group, I think it's fair to say terrorist. But I understand his objection. Except it becomes, look, there's no question. The word is ultimately subjective. You can't give a purely objective thing, definition. But if all these other acts that have been called terrorist acts are terrorist acts, then what was done in Waukesha was an act of terror. That's all. That's what I began by saying. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. And it's a beautiful thing to make a charitable donation, because the best way to express gratitude is to do a good deed. Go to my website now, if you would, and click on the Angel Tree banner there. This is giving a Christmas gift to a child who has a parent in prison. It's a beautiful act. Or you can call 888-206-2801, 888-206-2801, or the banner at my website.
Streaming on Salem Now.
You called your son. You personally promised him you would be here.
Lucas, I don't know how to help you.
Your daddy loves you. You gotta know it, pal.
Prayer is a powerful thing, Ethan. It really does work, if you believe.
What reason does he have to care about some guy who's supposed to be his dad, but is never around? I can't do it. I can't. I'm not ready for this, man.
I'm done with you.
We all deserve a second chance. Right, Ethan?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
And also, the bill would create more than 150 new government programs at a time when the government can't even manage the programs it has on the books. It's absolutely insane. I am imploring my colleagues in swing districts, so-called blue dog Democrats, moderate Democrats, if for no other reason than I'm appealing to their own political survival instincts, walk away from this bill before it's too late. This is an incredible act of hubris on the part of the Democrats right now, and it is bad for America.
So BBB is $2 billion for tree equity, doubling the size of the IRS. And what's the third takeaway? Because you got to define a bill by its most absurd provisions. And so we've got doubling the IRS size, tree equity. What's number three?
I think the Civilian Climate Corps is a great encapsulation.
I think you're right. And there are really 300,000 people in that?
That's what's been estimated. This is AOC's signature provision. She wants a bunch of unemployed baristas to become government-paid civilian activists running around the country doing God knows what at the taxpayer.
I mean, is it outlined? Did they tell us what the Civilian Conservation Corps is going to do?
Not in any detailed or meaningful sense. And because we haven't had a meaningful committee process, no one's even able to ask basic questions in a public setting and demand answers from, let's say, the executive branch agencies that would be in charge of overseeing these brand new programs. So the whole
That
thing
was
is
my next question. Who gets to oversee the tree equity money?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The recent war on history threatens to erase America's past. The Pilgrims, hailed by Movie Guide as inspiring, combats the lies to reveal America's true history.
They were poor. They were outcasts. They were enemies of the state for their refusal to submit to the Church of England.
The Mayflower was a cargo ship, but the most precious cargo that was carried across the Atlantic were the ideas in the hearts of the Pilgrims that were drawn from the Bible. The idea of self-government and rule from within, all these are within that body of Pilgrims.
The Pilgrims founded America for all intents and purposes.
Find out what everyone is talking about. Watch this new documentary to see God's providence in the lives of the Pilgrims.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Obama tore this country down. No one stood up to him. Nobody. Because he was black. You need to wake up.
You was your house nigga. I didn't call you a nigga.
Oh, okay. That's a big difference.
You're Uncle Tom.
And Uncle Tom is somebody who has sold out by embracing the white man.
Uncle Tom.
Bedwench.
Bootlicker.
Black white supremacist.
Chucking and jiving.
House Negro.
Coon.
Uncle Tom.
Coon.
I have a Coon Award over there. Most black people don't believe that other blacks can be independent, free thinkers.
I believe the legacy and the ancestry of black Americans is being insulted every single day. I will not pretend to be a victim in this country. I know that makes many people on the left uncomfortable.
The liberal will try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Sometimes there are policies so destructive that at first you don't believe they're true. Joe Biden is currently defending one, his plan to award $450,000 to migrants separated from their families after entering the U.S. illegally. Children of deceased U.S. soldiers are separated from their parents permanently. They don't receive this kind of money. And migrants who enter the U.S. legally certainly don't get this kind of payout. The really big jackpot, it seems, is being reserved for the lawbreakers. There are some obvious truths here. First, behavior that's subsidized gets repeated. Joe Biden is effectively inviting many more illegal immigrants to breach America's open borders. Second, he's betting over time the payoffs will benefit his party in political terms. Meanwhile, the vast majority of Americans watch in shock and dismay as our president, the country's chief law enforcement officer, brazenly rewards lawbreaking, a clear violation of his oath to defend our nation's laws. It's a sorry sight indeed.
The Pilgrims. They were poor. They were outcasts. They were enemies of the state for their refusal to submit to the Church of England.
The Mayflower was a cargo ship, but the most precious cargo that was carried across the Atlantic were the ideas in the hearts of the Pilgrims that were drawn from the Bible.
Not only did they start self-rule, they started free trade, capitalism, land ownership, all in 10 years with 51 people.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
You know, that would be an interesting subject for a male-female hour. When he says, women have always been a problem to me, and I'm sure that that's true for many men, but I don't know how many. I have no idea. And vice versa, you know, a woman saying, you know, men have always been a problem to me. I think we should do a show on that. When I hear that, I do what I think most people do. We hear something and then we put it into our own life, which is very, very natural and good to do. And I feel blessed that I never would have said that. I didn't have women as a problem in my life. I feel blessed when I hear that. It's funny. As you know, I always gamble with the openness about myself, but I think it was a good gamble I took from the beginning of my radio career. Well, that's a great question. That's why I want to do it as a subject once. So Sean asks, do I think I'm in the majority or minority of men? I have no idea. That's one of the reasons I'd like to do it. But it's clear, just the fact that it's said in the movie, that he represents a lot of men. I just don't know what percentage, and I feel lucky. I'm Dennis Prager. This is the Male-Female Hour, and the Male-Female Hour might be, I think it is, most honest talk about men and women in the American media. It's A, because I am very open and want you to be open. B, because I have no agenda other than learning about the sexes and enabling them to get along better. As I say almost every week, I am not a man fan and I am not a woman fan. There are terrific men and terrific women and disgusting men and disgusting women. And that's as simple as that. So today's topic was actually raised in a personal discussion over a cigar. By the way, the cigar you fell in love with, the living martyr does not smoke cigars on his own, but sometimes we get together at a cigar lounge after some work at PragerU, because PragerU is very near a cigar lounge. If this was God's will. And there's no doubt in my mind. If anybody ever says that God intervened in your life, yes, he put a cigar lounge on the same block as PragerU. Anyway, we were just talking, and we were talking about some women, young women we know, and he made an interesting point, which I'm going to have him articulate in a moment, because he could articulate his own point better than I can articulate his own point. Oh, probably not. That's typical living martyr talk. I promise you can articulate it better. But in any event, it's about young women, and it's related to the issue. It's not the issue, but it is related to the issue of young women not pursuing getting married. So that I have covered, and I will cover it again. It is one of the tragedies. I mean, and I don't use the word easily. It is a tragedy that young women are not yearning to get married. They yearn for a great career, which is fine, but not a great idea. You don't come home to a career. Okay? You come home to a partner, to a spouse, hopefully kids. Anyway, he was noting that something that had been done, at least in America and probably other Western countries, maybe elsewhere, but we know the West best. Women, if they were interested in a man, would let him know that, and would make him feel special, which men want to feel in the eyes of a woman, and especially with men who are not particularly aggressive or even, somewhat shy with women, that's a very effective way of getting a man. hey, I'm interested in you. So that was it. I thought it was a very intelligent point. So now I'll let you make it and why it arose to begin with. So here's Alan, the living murderer.
So just to draw a finer distinction, the issue here is not, as you noted, that women now are not so interested in pursuing marriage as opposed to, let's say, pursuing their career. What we're talking about now are women who yearn to get married, but don't know how to pursue a man. And you just said it very well, that the key is that sometimes, I mean, obviously it's a case-by-case basis, but sometimes, and I think in previous generations women knew this, the woman has to, in essence, be the pursuer. And men, and this will sound odd, but I think it's true, are actually, for the most part, easy targets. And it can be up to the woman to identify the target and pursue the target in a way that the man, probably a young man in this case, is made to feel that the woman thinks he is special. And that to a man is very attractive. And I think young women don't understand this fully. They don't use it to their advantage. And the problem is, if they wait too long, they move into a zone where it gets harder and harder to find a man, partly because, as you have noted, the good men, and we're talking about character here, are tend to be gone. So let me give you
because they're married.
Yeah. I'll give you a specific example and what makes me think of this. So there were 3 kids in my father's family. Obviously my father and he had 2 sisters. My father, ironically, was the best looking of the 3. He was a good looking young man. His 2 sisters were not. They were very plain women. They both got married early, and they both did it by locking onto a target, locking onto a man that they found attractive. They liked this guy, and they made sure that he knew it. And they got married, and they had families, and they lived their life. But at that time, we're now talking about really the late 40s, early 50s. It was a job. It was their job to do that. They knew it. They didn't want to spend their life alone. They wanted to get married, and they took care of the problem. It doesn't sound romantic, I admit it, but we're not talking about the romantic aspect of this. There were elements of romance that I heard and that happened naturally, but this notion of pursuing a man as a major part of one's life, something that needs to be done and that you have to take responsibility for on the part of the woman, is just been lost.
This was great. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243-7776. Do young women know this? We are afraid that they do not.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
What, is he charged with first-degree murder?
That's right, 2 counts.
How is that possible? It's an altercation. I mean, First-degree murder is where you're like, I'm going to murder this person and go to their home with, not some sort of bar fight gone wrong.
Yeah, so you're right. Actually, that would be what you're talking about would potentially be either voluntary manslaughter.
Yeah, that's what I never understood about this.
Or second-degree murder because it was more indiscriminate. What they're saying is, what the prosecution's argument is that Kyle Rittenhouse brought his gun because he intended to murder these BLM protesters, and that he had vengeful intent. Now, what's interesting to me is that the prosecution just a few minutes ago, before I came on the show, just rested in this case after about a week and a half of testimony. They did not present a single shred of evidence that Kyle Rittenhouse showed up with intent to hurt anyone.
Well, but this is what I can't understand, is that the judge, the pretrial, arguments, because this is just, you have months to submit, motions to dismiss. You're trying to tell me no one looked at this? They say, wait a second. You're charging a guy who got in an altercation by the way, the guy that Kyle Rittenhouse killed in self-defense was like a child rapist or something, right? He was like a child pedophile or something. Is that right?
Multiple count child rapist. And honestly,
I'm not saying he deserves to die because of it, but
right.
Let's
the
just
details of that case, if anyone wants to see it, it's absolutely horrific.
This is not Gandhi, okay? Let's just.
But what's interesting, though, what's actually relevant to this is that he had just been released from a hospital where he was being held on a psychiatric hold.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Last night, the New York Times ran a headline, Social Spending Infrastructure Advances in-House. And I thought to myself, when did socialism go from big government to social spending infrastructure? Social spending infrastructure doesn't mean anything. It's never been a term of art. It doesn't have any meaning. It's a cover term for a vast hose of money on everything. This isn't going to get through the Senate, is it?
Oh, no, I don't think this is going to get through the Senate. And the infrastructure bill got through, but that's going to be about it on these big spending programs. And Pelosi and her crew want $4 trillion in spending. And, of course, I get it. Pelosi wants to pass this thing so that she can be an ambassador and head to Rome. What they're trying to do is cast one vote. And in that one vote, they want to take control of your kids, control of education, control of your health care, federalizing elections, changing immigration policy, then more provisions of the Green New Deal and a socialist economy.
Are you telling me that Speaker Pelosi, we're gonna visit her on the Pope? Is that what you're telling me?
We're hearing that is the goal. I don't talk to her, but what we're hearing is that she is looking forward to becoming an ambassador.
Now, look, Francis and I don't agree on much, but we cannot do that to the Pope.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Yeah, in fact, when I interview guests now, at least half the time they're on the video. You can see them, and so can I, which I like actually. SalemNewsChannel.com. I'm Dennis Prager. This is the Male-Female Hour. This topic I owe to my intrepid producer and friend, Alan Estrin, a.k.a. the Living Martyr. Women used to know how to pursue men and get them. Your point is so wise. Men are easy targets. It's a Exactly right. A woman shows that she thinks this man is special. That's it. You got him. Not in every case. There's no such thing as every case. Generalizations, by definition, are generalizations and allow for exceptions. But young women are not taught this. They're taught how to get into Dartmouth. This is the goal of middle class and upper class parents. Not that my daughter find a good guy, but my daughter go to a good college where she can become unhappy, miserable, and angry, which is what college does to so many young women and men, but I'm talking about young women. That is a very important thing that you raised. And he gave his two aunts as examples. Not particularly attractive. I mean, not ugly, but plain. That's the perfect word, right? And got one was a college professor and one was an engineer for Boeing. He told me this off the air. How many parents teach their daughters? And this is usually either parent could do it actually. Either the mother or the father. I don't know if it's more effective from the father or the mother. I don't know. I don't have a daughter, but it's certainly something I would have pushed. Instead, they push getting into a good college, making a lot of money, etc. All right, 1-8 Prager 776. We go to L.A. and Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Dennis. Before we get into it really fast, I would just like to say I'm so grateful for you and everything you do for the country. My husband and I are big fans. I am a part of PrEP with PragerU, and I'm a tutor, and I use Otto's tales in my lessons. So I'm so grateful for everything you do. Thank you.
You made my day. Thank you so much.
With regard to your question, I have a personal example. My husband and I have been married for about 1.5 years, but we've been together for about 11 years, and we were high school sweethearts. I pursued him relentlessly in high school for about 6 months, and he knew that I liked him the entire time, but was shy and didn't really want to make a move, and so eventually one day I just kissed him, and kind of the rest is history, but I definitely pursued him. And in hearing you and Alan talk earlier, I texted him, he's at work, and I asked if that made him feel special, and if so, did that play into his interest in me and wanting to give dating a try, and he said that it did make him feel special, so, and that, was part of the reason why he wanted to give it a try.
You sound so healthy, it's hard to believe you live in L.A.
Well, I would love to move one of these days if we could get my husband's job on board with that.
Wonderful. Let me know. Do you want kids?
We do. I actually called you a month or so ago asking about having a family at these times and asking if you could speak some hope into that. Just because with everything going on in the political climate and the way the country's going, it's
the thing that anyone worried about the future in deciding whether to have a child should remember is Jews whose whole family and all their children were murdered by the Nazis, then came to America or Israel or wherever and made families.
Right.
If anybody had a reason not to, it was they. You're special.
You're so right.
Thank you very, very much. Yes. I'm a big fan of The Outlier. She's 27. What percentage of women who are in LA who are 27 think like her? It's not a cute question. I would say, what would you say? How many 27-year-old females in LA think like her?
Well, there are a lot because a lot of people live here.
No. What percentage? Yeah, no, not number.
I'm going to say 25%.
Yeah, I was going to say 20. Interesting. You said 25, yeah. Okay. Let's go. By the way, there's an old saying. I wonder if you ever heard this. She pursued him until he caught her. I heard that as a kid. Yeah, but that's exactly what you are advocating. And then he thinks he got her. But the fact is, like Rebecca in the Bible, she arranged the entire scenario. By the way, there's an added note that I'd like to make about this issue. That's really, unless your man, is psychologically troubled or whatever, but for most men, the thing they most want from you is to believe that you think they're special. It's unbelievably simple. It's much harder to describe what will make a woman happy. It's very easy to describe it with a man. Make him feel special. That's it. And he'll do anything, even the dishes, if that matters to you. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243 776. Tom in Burbank, California. Hello.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Good.
Good. Great to have you on the phone. Hey, as a quick side note, I just retired from the fire station around the corner from your house. We want to have you over for a cigar.
Yes, no. I absolutely will do that if that's your fire station. I know you guys. You have been wonderful to me, and I would love that. So I hope we don't burn the station down while lighting our cigars. I'll be back with you in a moment. You're listening to the Male-Female Hour on the Dennis Prager Show.
The Dennis Prager Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Creeps who've had some financial success in life. We're the bad. We need to be punished. Although not Pelosi. Did you hear she pushed back on the capital gains tax increase? She didn't like that, and she's a wealthy woman. But anyway, it turns out the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center has taken a look at Build Back Better. They're saying about 30% of middle-income households will be taxed and pay additional taxes, have a tax increase in 2022. Whoops! No, say it isn't so, Joe. Say it isn't so. Come on.
Come on, man.
Did you lie to us again? Did you not tell the truth? And some low and middle class and middle income households, according to the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center, which has reviewed Build Back Better, they will pay more per year in taxes if the plan is implemented. Obviously they sat around the White House, they said, let's try this. Let's say that this massive spending won't cost anything. It'll be a little bit like Biden calling Satchel Paige a Negro, and then we'll say he didn't call Satchel Paige a Negro. We'll see if they buy it. It doesn't cost a thing. It's free. Just like free college is really free. Wink, wink. Bunch of liars.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Then we
are going to bring in innovative charter schools. Most people don't know that public charter schools are public schools, and so they fight against it. They worship the building instead of the child, and we're not going to just keep throwing money at that. In fact, I put in a charter school bill 20 years ago when I was first in office, but we were stopped.
Now, let's pause there for a moment, Lieutenant Governor-elect Sears. The appointments of the Secretary of Education and the Superintendent of Education are, I think, the two most important that Governor Youngkin, when he becomes Governor Youngkin, makes. Have you counseled with him on who those individuals ought to be and what their orientation ought to be towards charter schools?
Well, Governor-elect Youngkin, oh boy, do I love saying that. Governor-elect Youngkin has promised us he's going to fire the current superintendent. Day one, fire this current superintendent. Now, I believe he's going to have at least 2 appointments almost immediately on the board because, they roll off.
Yes.
But the board has been stacked now for the past, but we can't really get rid of the policies that we have unless we get rid of some of the laws that we have, you see, because what they're doing is implementing the laws, which is why we needed the House, because we've got to bring back some of that and get rid of it, for example, CRT. And, unfortunately, this left-wing media has been gaslighting us to let us know that, well, there is no such thing as CRT, when we have seen with our own eyes that back in 2015, the Virginia State Board of Education put it on their website and put books recommending the reading of such and the teaching of such.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
All right, everybody. Okay. Male-female hour. I'm Dennis Prager. For eons, men would be pursued by, talking about especially young people, but it doesn't only mean young, but especially a girl, a young woman had interest in a guy, she would make him feel special and very often get him. Of course, you talk like that today and you're considered backward. Even giving the notion of tips to women on how to get a guy is considered verboten, which is German for forbidden. No, you should give her tips on how to get a PhD in sociology. That's valuable. Husband. The old feminist line of a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle is really taken. It's laughed at, but it was effective. That's what a lot of young women think.
Do we need to make a distinction that we're not talking about? I think it's clear, but we're not talking about pursuing men for sex. I mean, women can...
No, the whole thing is about for husbands.
So it's not about...
They don't have to pursue men for sex.
It's not about presenting that they're available for sex. That's not at all what we're talking about.
Okay.
It's about this notion of making him feel
right,
special, and that and just offering yourself is not how it's done. That does not make a man feel special.
Well, it does once you have him. That's the irony.
That's a whole different thing.
Yes, that's right. But I did want to make that point because it's one of the points, the point that is most often made when women tell me how the male-female hour has affected their marriage, in that sex is a profound and often the best way, as simplistic as it sounds to so many women, of telling a man you're special. I'm not talking premaritally, I'm talking postmaritally. Premaritally, it makes him feel lucky but not special. All right, anyway, Tom in Burbank, firefighter, correct?
Hey, Dennis, thanks for having me back.
Yes, sir.
So I just think that I think it is something that's being lost in today's world with young women. I think maybe if when a young lady gets the talk, whether it's from the mom or the dad, about the birds and the bees, I think maybe that's something they need to include, is making a man or a future potential spouse feel special. Because men, like I said, I retired from the Fire Service, and I got to know a lot of men over 34 years, and men are mostly, not all of us, but mostly a very simple piece of equipment. I mean, some admiration and some affection make us feel special, and we'll move mountains. I don't
That's
think
right.
it's that difficult, but I don't want to paint us all with the same brush. But
No. I think you're right. That was his point, my producer, and I certainly agree. There's and I'll see you at the fire station. There's a great, I don't know if it would be called a meme, but there's a great illustration that I found on the internet. There are many, I collect them, differences between men and women. So here is one example. The woman machine has about 15 dials, diodes, knobs, buttons, levers, and the man machine has an on-off switch. It's a great illustration of their differences. And the on in marriage, I talked about, and the on before marriage is show him he's special. They're both related. It is amazing that I have to say these things. Every one of these things was known by men and women pre the baby boomer. The lack of understanding about life that permeates the baby boomers, their children, their grandchildren, universities, is astonishing. Nerve Renew is for those of you, hey, get that? Good rhyme. Nerve Renew is for those of you who have tingling, numbness, and the like in an extremity, hand or feet. I've had it in my feet much of my life. I had special inserts made in my shoes, and they worked, at least when I had the shoes on. I read about Nerve Renew, figured I'll try it. 9 months, 10 months later, for the first time in a decade, I threw away the inserts. I have not worn them since. If you have tingling numbness in hands or feet, 2-week free trial, 1 year money back guarantee. Try nerverenew.com. Try nerverenew.com.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
One more time, President Biden.
Conversations around those kitchen tables that are both profound as they are ordinary. How do I cross a bridge in a snowstorm? What happened? No, think about it. You know, you're in a situation, what happens if the bridge collapses and there's a fire on the other side? It's going to take 10 miles longer to get to the fire. People could die. I mean, this is real. This is real stuff.
Now, I originally suggested hashtag snowstorm fire bridge collapse. Here I was. I had worked all day on the president's remarks. I found this bit of gold, alerting the country to the impending massive cycle of snowstorms, fires, and bridge collapses, and trucks that can't get anywhere. And I thought to myself, if I let the country know first, I'll get the credit for this. If you're driving today, would you let me know where the snowstorm fire bridge collapse is? 1-800-520-1223.
If you're going across the bridge, we want to hear from you to see if that bridge has indeed caught fire in a snowstorm.
If you're on any bridge anywhere. Or collapsed, and you see a house anywhere burning, stop and help. We have many stories of heroes who have done the same thing. There was one in New York yesterday. A guy was running past a house that nobody knew was on fire, and he saved all the pets. He's a hero. So you be a hero today when, we'll call it a Biden event. Whenever we have a Biden event, you need to stop. I don't know how you get across the river. How are we going to get across the river, Generalissimo, if the bridge is down?
I have no idea.
When was the last bridge collapse? I asked you last night to research bridge
right?
collapses. Bridge collapses aren't funny, but I think that was the last one.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
You called your son. You personally promised him you would be here.
Lucas, I don't know how to help you.
Your daddy loves you, you gotta know it, pal.
Do you feel the love?
Prayer is a powerful thing, Ethan. It really does work, if you believe.
What reason does he have to care about some guy who's supposed to be his dad, but is never around? I can't do it, I can't. I'm not ready for this, man.
I'm done with you.
We all deserve a second chance. Right, Ethan?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hi, everybody. Male, female hour. The subject was given to me by my producer. Oddly enough, talking about his aunts or aunts who got men that they wanted when they were young by focusing on getting them, making them feel special. Neither was a beauty. I did not know them. We're reporting what Alan said, but they got the man they wanted. Young women don't know this, and if they knew this, most of them wouldn't even act on it. You got to want to get married in order to want to figure out how to get married, right? If you want to be a doctor, you figure out how to get into medical school. If you want to get married, you figure out how to get a man. Correct? Pretty elementary stuff, I would think. All righty. Berwyn, Illinois, and Joe. Haven't heard from Berwyn in a while.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for taking the call. No, I think that you're bringing up a great point, and it's incredibly easy to make a guy feel special, especially today. Young men are rarely complimented on anything, and something as little as a compliment can be remembered for years. I mean, I challenge young women to talk with some of the men that they know and ask them, when was the last time somebody said something nice about you?
Wow, that's great. Are you married?
I am.
Who pursued whom?
Third-party pursuit, believe it or not. One of my wife's friends made it very clear to me that she was interested, and I had no idea at the time. But, once that was made clear, things kind of moved on from there.
I remember, good call, thank you. I remember, he's right, by the way. It's not just sex, it's compliment, that's correct. And I remember when I was a kid at summer camp or at school, if someone were to say to me, or to any other guy, you know, so a girl would say, in other words, I resonate to this call. A girl would tell me, I was talking to, give me a name from the past, Barbara. I was talking to Barbara, and she likes you. And so immediately you just start thinking of her. Barbara Ann. How's that? You didn't expect that, did you? I'm not a singer, but I'm on key, but I'm not. How can you not like this? I don't understand how a human could not like this. 50s rock and roll is the happiest music I know of. All righty, everybody. You know what's interesting? This I did not expect. Every line but one is a male. Which may be good, actually, because then women listening could understand that the point I, and originally my producer, are making is valid, because men are calling in. Ernesto in Downey, California. Hello.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
So I saved a quote that I heard. It's the woman who chooses the man who chooses the woman.
Right. Yes, that's the same as she pursued him till he caught her. Yeah.
Right. And also, the desire of the man is for the woman, and the desire of the woman is for the desire of the man.
Cool. So tell me what yeah, go on. You had another point, though, that you told the screener.
Yeah, your producer I think he's correct that women don't know how, but it's instinctive in them to look for a partner. So they do it anyway without knowing how, and they end up in terrible situations. And so they sort of can't help themselves but to, they see someone they like, they show interest, and since they're being educated and like, hey, you don't have to get married, the longer you wait, the better, then it turns into the way things are now. And so the men like it, and the women think they like it. And
you were more direct with the screener, that, or I suspect, because I think you were referring to, they could pursue men for sex, but they don't know how to pursue men for marriage. You don't have to pursue a man for sex. Okay? You just have to show up. To deny that only means you're well-educated. The well-educated, the grasp of the well-educated on reality is minimal. It's an unprecedented phenomenon. That's why I say college makes you stupid, and I mean that literally. I know that there are exceptions. But we have a two-pronged problem here. Young women are not aching to get married, and if they are aching, they don't know how to go about finding the man. That's why this hour is very important. I thank my producer, and we continue in a moment.
The Dennis Prager Show.
trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
One more time, President Biden.
Conversations around those kitchen tables that are both profound as they are ordinary. How do I cross a bridge in a snowstorm? What happened? Think about it. You know, you're in a situation, what happens if the bridge collapses and there's a fire on the other side? It's going to take 10 miles longer to get to the fire. People could die. I mean, this is real. This is real stuff.
Now, I originally suggested hashtag snowstorm fire bridge collapse. Here I was. I had worked all day on the president's remarks. I found this bit of gold, alerting the country to the impending massive cycle of snowstorms, fires, and bridge collapses, and trucks that can't get anywhere. And I thought to myself, if I let the country know first, I'll get the credit for this. If you're driving today, would you let me know where the snowstorm fire bridge collapse is? 1-800-520-1223.
If you're going across the bridge, we want to hear from you to see if that bridge has indeed caught fire in a snowstorm.
If you're on any bridge anywhere, or collapsed, and you see a house anywhere burning, stop and help. We have many stories of heroes who have done the same thing. There was one in New York yesterday. A guy was running past a house that nobody knew was on fire, and he saved all the pets. He's a hero. So you be a hero today when, we'll call it a Biden event. Whenever we have a Biden event, you need to stop. I don't know how you get across the river. How are we going to get across the river, Generalissimo, if the bridge is down?
I have no idea.
When was the last bridge collapse? I asked you last night to research
I-35,
bridge collapses. Right? Bridge collapses aren't funny, but I think that was the last one.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America. You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. Male-female hour. Young women don't know how to get a man as well as they did in the past. Make a man that you have a desire for. We're talking about desire for ultimately marrying, and when a woman makes a man feel special, there's a good chance she can get him. That's the point. Obviously, it's not always true. Not this. Okay, so let's see here. Please don't hang up because I'd like to summarize your calls, and do tell the screener if she's still taking your call. Weston in Philadelphia agrees his mother was one of 5 sisters, all got married. Now women focus on other things. Correct. Mike in Orlando, Florida. His wife did. He married his quote-unquote stalker. It saved time. He adores her. That's adorable. Lisa in Ontario, Canada. I think we still do it, but the quality of men is low. Well, that's a subject I have covered and will cover again. I can only say that I can say a lot, but I will only say that that is one of the most important reasons for a woman to find a good man as early as possible. The percentage of good men decreases with age because the best men marry. Simple. That's a simple fact of life. When women say the best men are married, there are two reasons. Marriage makes men better, and better men marry. There you go. Coach Dave in Culver City, California. Women don't know how to do it in this country. I think that they don't know how. That is correct. Feminism has destroyed the happiness and bonding ability of vast numbers of young people. It has largely been a destructive force. I know now more than I ever knew how destructive it is. We shall return. Dennis Prager.
Miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You called your son. You personally promised him you would be here.
Lucas, I don't know how to help you.
Your daddy loves you, you gotta know it, pal.
Prayer is a powerful thing, Ethan. It really does work, if you believe.
What reason does he have to care about some guy who's supposed to be his dad, but he's never around? I can't do it. I can't. I'm not ready for this, man.
I'm done with you.
We all deserve a second chance. Right, Ethan?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
And also, the bill would create more than 150 new government programs at a time when the government can't even manage the programs it has on the books. It's absolutely insane. I am imploring my colleagues in swing districts, so-called blue dog Democrats, moderate Democrats, if for no other reason than I'm appealing to their own political survival instincts, walk away from this bill before it's too late. This is an incredible act of hubris on the part of the Democrats right now, and it is bad for America.
So BBB is $2 billion for tree equity, doubling the size of the IRS. And what's the third takeaway? Because you got to define a bill by its most absurd provisions. And so we've got doubling the IRS size, tree equity. What's number three?
I think the Civilian Climate Corps is a great encapsulation.
I think you're right. And there are really 300,000 people in that?
That's what's been estimated. This is AOC's signature provision. She wants a bunch of unemployed baristas to become government-paid civilian activists running around the country doing God knows what at the taxpayer.
I mean, is it outlined? Did they tell us what the Civilian Conservation Corps is going to do?
Not in any detailed or meaningful sense. And because we haven't had a meaningful committee process, no one's even able to ask basic questions. in a public setting and demand answers from, let's say, the executive branch agencies that would be in charge of overseeing these brand new programs. So the whole
That
thing
was
is
my next question. Who gets to oversee the tree equity money?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The recent war on history threatens to erase America's past. The Pilgrims, hailed by Movie Guide as inspiring, combats the lies to reveal America's true history.
They were poor. They were outcasts. They were enemies of the state for their refusal to submit to the Church of England.
The Mayflower was a cargo ship, but the most precious cargo that was carried across the Atlantic were the ideas in the hearts of the Pilgrims that were drawn from the Bible. The idea of self-government and rule from within, all these are within that body of Pilgrims.
The Pilgrims founded America for all intents and purposes.
Find out what everyone is talking about. Watch this new documentary to see God's providence in the lives of the Pilgrims.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Obama tore this country down. No one stood up to him. Nobody. Because he was black. You need to wake up.
You was a house nigga. I didn't call you a nigga. Oh, okay. That's a big difference. You're Uncle Tom.
And Uncle Tom is somebody who has sold out by embracing the white man.
Uncle Tom,
Bedwench,
bootlicker,
black white supremacist,
chucking and jiving,
house Negro,
coon,
Uncle Tom,
coon.
I have a coon award over there. Most black people don't believe that other blacks can be independent, free thinkers.
I believe the legacy and the ancestry of black Americans is being insulted every single day. I will not pretend to be a victim in this country. I know that makes many people on the left uncomfortable.
The liberal will try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Sometimes there are policies so destructive that at first you don't believe they're true. Joe Biden is currently defending one, his plan to award $450,000 to migrants separated from their families after entering the U.S. illegally. Children of deceased U.S. soldiers are separated from their parents permanently. They don't receive this kind of money. And migrants who enter the U.S. legally certainly don't get this kind of payout. The really big jackpot, it seems, is being reserved for the lawbreakers. There are some obvious truths here. First, behavior that's subsidized gets repeated. Joe Biden is effectively inviting many more illegal immigrants to breach America's open borders. Second, he's betting over time the payoffs will benefit his party in political terms. Meanwhile, the vast majority of Americans watch in shock and dismay as our president, the country's chief law enforcement officer, brazenly rewards lawbreaking, a clear violation of his oath to defend our nation's laws. It's a sorry sight indeed.
The Pilgrims. They were poor. They were outcasts. They were enemies of the state for their refusal to submit to the Church of England.
The Mayflower was a cargo ship, but the most precious cargo that was carried across the Atlantic were the ideas in the hearts of the Pilgrims that were drawn from the Bible.
Not only did they start self-rule, they started free trade, capitalism, land ownership, all in 10 years with 51 people.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
All right, everybody. The breaking news out of Georgia is that 3 men were found guilty of murder of Ahmed Arbery, who is said was jogging in their neighborhood. They stopped him. I'm not going to review the case. I will talk more about it next week. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and we're all on vacation through the weekend. But I did want to share the news with you. The whole thing, for everybody concerned, is a tragedy. And I can explain why I said that at another time, but I did want to share the breaking news with you. What I want to talk to you about this hour is the micro. I want to talk to you about your Thanksgiving. Has COVID screwed up your Thanksgiving like it did last year? The beauty of, for me anyway, of having a radio show with so many listeners is I really get a chance to do what almost nobody gets a chance to do, and that is talk to a lot of people about their lives. So I get a sense of what's going on. For example, where did I just see this? Oh, wow. I read so much I can't remember all the sources. Was it an advice column in the New York Times? DIL, that's what I remember, daughter-in-law. Do you remember seeing that? So there are parents who cannot go to their son's home for Thanksgiving because the daughter-in-law knows that they're not vaccinated. They're vaccinated. I even think one had COVID and she still doesn't want them to come. Yeah, I think it was a New York Times column, advice column. And it's caused a real rupture in the family. And I didn't read the entire response of the columnist, but I thought what I read was intelligent. The person said, no matter what, there's a rupture. If you get the vaccine, you'll resent your daughter-in-law. And if you don't get the vaccine, you'll resent each other. It's also an interesting question. I'd love to know what the son thinks. Does the son think, gee, my wife is right? We're vaccinated, but my parents are a mortal danger to us? Or does he think, my wife is a little extreme on this issue, but hey, I'm not going to confront her. Number of men who confront the women in their life is very small. It's not good for them, not good for the women, and not good for the dog in the house either. Because they sense when a man is not standing up for himself. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243-7776. So that's my question. How's your Thanksgiving going to be? Everybody getting together like they did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and as far back as you can recall? Or has COVID done its damage? Because it's done its damage not with regard to health, but with regard to psychology and family relations. God, you know what I would love to do? I would love, we can't do it because I'd have to listen to the whole hour and choose parts. I'd like to play excerpts from my last year's pre-Thanksgiving show and see how different or not different it was then at the height of the fears which have not been reduced much. That's the amazing thing. Yes, the COVID has caused family ruptures that I don't know, and I pray they do, but I don't know if they'll heal. Not being allowed to see your grandchildren or your child even, forget your grandchildren, not being allowed to see your child you're 65 and you're not vaccinated, and your vaccinated children are freaked out. You know who wouldn't be freaked out? Your unvaccinated children, if you have, because they would, of course, be on board with you. So that's my question. What's your Thanksgiving going to be like? It's a service for you to call in and tell us, because I want to get a psychological and empirical temperature taking about what is happening in America right now. It's my last hour before Thanksgiving, and I think this is an important subject. I'd like to know what percentage of people got the vaccine. This is a separate issue, and it's related, but it's separate. What percentage of people got the vaccine because they believe that they really needed it? What percentage got it because of peer pressure, fear of being fired, fear of their children? By the way, how many people fear parents is an interesting question. How many parents have said to unvaccinated children, don't come over? I think that's probably very small, don't you? Can you imagine that? I don't want to see you on Thanksgiving. My son, my daughter, because you're not vaccinated. Anyway, if you're vaccinated, what are you worried about? If you are worried, it doesn't say much about the vaccine. But I've talked about that and will more. There's so much more to report. Just one little piece of statistics that might interest you. More people died of COVID, according to the CDC and NIH. More people have died of COVID this year with a largely vaccinated population than in 2020 with a completely non-vaccinated population. No one was vaccinated in 2020 and fewer people died of COVID. Is there anything to be made of that? I don't know, but it's certainly a worthy question, isn't it? It would strike me as a worthy question. So what's happening in your family? I'm very curious. Okay, let's see now. Sam in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Hi there.
Hello, Dennis.
Hi.
Yeah, COVID has definitely affected not only Thanksgiving, but also Christmas. And we always went to my sister's house for Thanksgiving. I have 2 children that I was going to bring over, and my dad is vaccinated. He's allowed to go. I'm not allowed to go, and neither are my children. But then my sister, she is vaccinated with the booster and everything because she's a nurse practitioner over at U of M. Her husband is actually a DNA scientist who works for one of those universities out there in Boston. And he works from home, actually. But he just got COVID. So now...
Wait, forgive me. He got COVID after being vaccinated?
For the second time. This is the second time he got COVID.
After being vaccinated?
Yeah.
So how did this affect your sister?
She's just sad.
No, I don't mean emotionally. Has it affected her view of your not being vaccinated?
No, her view is the exact same view as what your view has to be to work at University of Michigan.
I see. What do they call it? Breakthrough? If you've been vaccinated, it's a breakthrough.
Streaming on Salem Now.
You called your son. You personally promised him you would be here.
Lucas, I don't know how to help you.
Your daddy loves you, you gotta know it, pal.
Prayer is a powerful thing, Ethan. It really does work. If you believe.
What reason does he have to care about some guy who's supposed to be his dad, but is never around? I can't do it. I can't. I'm not ready for this, man.
I'm done with you.
We all deserve a second chance. Right, Ethan?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
And also, the bill would create more than 150 new government programs at a time when the government can't even manage the programs it has on the books. It's absolutely insane. I am imploring my colleagues in swing districts, so-called blue dog Democrats, moderate Democrats, if for no other reason than I'm appealing to their own political survival instincts, walk away from this bill before it's too late. This is an incredible act of hubris on the part of the Democrats right now, and it is bad for America.
So BBB is $2 billion for tree equity, doubling the size of the IRS. And what's the third takeaway? Because you got to define a bill by its most absurd provisions. And so we've got doubling the IRS size, tree equity. What's number 3?
I think the Civilian Climate Corps is a great encapsulation.
I think you're right. And there are really 300,000 people in that?
That's what's been estimated. This is AOC's signature provision. She wants a bunch of unemployed baristas to become government-paid civilian activists running around the country doing God knows what at the taxpayer.
I mean, is it outlined? Did they tell us what the Civilian Conservation Corps is going to do?
Not in any detailed or meaningful sense. And because we haven't had a meaningful committee process, no one's even able to ask basic questions in a public setting and demand answers from, let's say, the executive branch agencies that would be in charge of overseeing these brand new programs. So the whole
that
thing
was
is
my next question. Who gets to oversee the tree equity money?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Sometimes there are policies so destructive that at first you don't believe they're true. Joe Biden is currently defending one, his plan to award $450,000 to migrants separated from their families after entering the U.S. illegally. Children of deceased U.S. soldiers are separated from their parents permanently. They don't receive this kind of money. And migrants who enter the U.S. legally certainly don't get this kind of payout. The really big jackpot, it seems, is being reserved for the lawbreakers. There are some obvious truths here. First, behavior that's subsidized gets repeated. Joe Biden is effectively inviting many more illegal immigrants to breach America's open borders. Second, he's betting over time the payoffs will benefit his party in political terms. Meanwhile, the vast majority of Americans watch in shock and dismay as our president, the country's chief law enforcement officer, brazenly rewards lawbreaking, a clear violation of his oath to defend our nation's laws. It's a sorry sight indeed.
Things you can do to learn truth about America and give it to your children. Hillsdale Magnificent University provides this, or college, Hillsdale College, provides this for free, the Hillsdale 1776 curriculum, downloadable for free at K12 Hillsdale, no, K12.Hillsdale.edu. It's not hard. K12 means kindergarten through 12th grade. Hillsdale's the college, and EDU is educational institution. K12.edu, K12.Hillsdale.edu. Download it for free, and it's a magnificent course. the Hillsdale 1776 curriculum. k12.hillsdale.edu. What are you going to do? Thanksgiving is tomorrow. What's the story with whom you will be with? In other words, has COVID ruined your Thanksgiving as it did last year? That's basically what I'm asking. Autumn in Long Beach, California. Hello.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
I have a good COVID Thanksgiving story. My family and I, we were all kind of estranged, not talking. We didn't have anything to do with each other for many years. And when COVID hit, we actually came together and we all were on board with our same theory. We thought it was, we all are in agreement on what we believe, and we think we all had Thanksgiving together last year. Didn't stop us. We're going to have Thanksgiving together again this year, and I'm just so happy about it.
How on God's earth did COVID bring you together after years of estrangement?
We got to talking, and we got to agree.
Amazing. It's an amazing story.
To agree on stuff.
What were you estranged about, political or personal issues?
No, personal.
Right, I gathered. Well, I'm happy to hear a happy story. You should write it up for some place on the internet or some magazine. How COVID brought a family of estranged members together. You might represent very few people, but it would be a very interesting thing to read. All right, JR in Nashville, Tennessee, where half the country is moving. Hi.
Hey, Dennis, I wish you a blessed Thanksgiving and Hanukkah this year.
Thank you so much. Hey, just by the way, was I right? Is half the country moving to Nashville?
No, I'd say it's about 70% now.
Excellent. That's right. Well, so let me ask you something. Do you own a house?
I own land, but I'm in an apartment right now.
Oh, bummer. If you'd have had a house, you'd have been a rich man.
You know what? I grew up poor, Dennis. I'll make it again. But on that land, if you saw the home I'm going to build and what I'm going to put on it, I'm not worried about it.
Okay, sounds good. Excellent. All right, so what's your story with your holiday?
Okay, so last Thanksgiving, half the family, and we have a very large family, half the family was completely freaked out, thought we were all going to die within weeks, and it turned into nobody could get their act together, so Thanksgiving last year for us was canceled. It was canceled. And this year, after 12 months of this insanity, everybody, and I would say off the top of my head, 30-40% of the people that are going to be there are not vaccinated, not. And everybody's in. We're going to have between 40 and 50 people at one house, bodies on bodies, kids running around the way it's supposed to be. And
wait, so I'm just curious. Even last year's freaked out members are showing up?
Yep, every single one.
How do you explain that?
One. I think they came to a realization that this is insane.
Oh, that's interesting. They changed their minds.
Totally.
Wow.
And the grandparents are the most motivated. They're like, I can't go one more year without seeing my grandbabies. I can't do it.
Right. Well, thank you. I know I'm letting you go, but I have to get more calls. But that was a great story, too. Here's an interesting question. I have found, by the way, I have not found a pattern. I always look for patterns. Because I've done this now for almost 2 years. Asked people on the male-female hour who's more freaked out, the husband or the wife. 50-50. No predicting whether it be the woman or the man who was more scared. Then I would, of course, the only consistent is left-right. Far more people on the left are scared than people on the right. That's a given. But beyond that, I'll tell you what I suspect that older people, the grandparents' generation, might be the least scared, if there's any pattern. I don't know if that's true, but it'd be an interesting thing for somebody to figure out or to explore. All right, Daniel in Philadelphia, hello.
Hey, Dennis.
Yes, sir.
How you doing? Let me first say you're one of my favorite modern-day philosophers. I consider you a philosopher.
I am a philosopher.
And,
thank you.
Yep. And actually outside of Philly, from Philly, but now live in a suburb across the Delaware River, thank God, in New Jersey, called Mount Laurel. I would never. You couldn't pay me to live in Philadelphia again. I'm so ashamed of my city.
Well, you
but
should
anyway,
be. Philadelphia is a shameful city. It is one of the worst in the country. Time after time, I have pointed out how destructive things are, from the Philadelphia Orchestra to the University of Pennsylvania, and its district attorney and its mayor. I mean, it's truly a dysfunctional, woke, America-hating, Western civilization-hating city. Of course, there are people in it who love everything Western and American, but they are a minority with no power.
And pretty much most of them are the ones that grew up there. Because there's been a big difference. I grew up in Philly in the 70s and 80s. My parents were there in the 40s and 50s. And it was a great city back then. Had its problems, but it was a great city. I mean, it was community. Now that I've moved over to New Jersey, and I've had relatives over here for 30 years, but I feel more like the people that used to be in Philly are over here.
That's fascinating. All I could say is if somebody moves to New Jersey to feel more traditional, more conservative, and more secure, that's a bad sign for the city they moved from. We continue. What's your Thanksgiving going to be like in light of COVID?
The Dennis Prager Show. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Burka.
Right now, based upon how the judge is responding to the way that this evil bunch of hyenas are trying to make... the fact of the matter of this, Rittenhouse killed 2 people. Both of them were criminals. One of them had just been released from jail for doing what? Raping young boys. If it were up to me, that would be a death penalty automatic in America. Rape a child, death. End of story. That's the reason nations create capital punishment. He got out, which is just so understanding and empathetic of us. He threatened people all day, and then he used force and threatened Kyle Rittenhouse, who was there to help people when he wasn't a community pool lifeguard. And that man shot to death. The child rapist. Rot in hell. The second man, oh yes, with a rap sheet for what? Assaulting women. He got killed as well after he swung at Kyle Rittenhouse with a skateboard to his head. Not a lot of tears will be shed for that man, I'm sure, in any community of decent Americans. And then the third guy who approached him with a Glock pointed to Kyle's head, who then had his bicep blown off by that brave young man. Come on, guys. Acquit, or better yet, mistrial.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
But as I said, had they not acquitted him in this vile prosecution from a vile prosecutor, it would have ended, to a very large extent, the whole notion of self-defense in the United States of America. The service this jury performed cannot be overstated. Absolutely cannot be overstated. Yes, you can shoot people who are out to shoot you. This is about as elementary a moral ideal as exists in the human race. And that's what this young man did.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
The Pilgrims. They were poor. They were outcasts. They were enemies of the state for their refusal to submit to the Church of England.
The Mayflower was a cargo ship, but the most precious cargo that was carried across the Atlantic were the ideas in the hearts of the Pilgrims that were drawn from the Bible.
Not only did they start self-rule, they started free trade, capitalism, land ownership, all in 10 years with 51 people.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hi, everybody. The pre-Thanksgiving show, I had it last year. Well, of course I did. Somewhat of a silly comment. But what I meant to say is I had the same subject. What is your Thanksgiving going to be like in light of COVID? And I'm getting very positive responses. I am very happy to hear. Maybe that will explain a lot of people on the road, a lot of people flying. I hope that's true. I wanted this last year. I acted as normally as possible last year from the very beginning of lockdown. Within 2 weeks, I was having dinner with about 15 people every Friday night for my Shabbat dinner, my Sabbath dinner, and I conducted my services with unmasked people, unbeknownst to the mayor of Los Angeles or the governor of California, about 400 people, indoors, unmasked. Not only did nobody die, I don't even know if anybody got anything from it. And we did not put a mask over our ram's horn, over the shofar blown on the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. I know the synagogues that have put masks on them. If that truly would be my picture, if I had to have one picture to denote hysteria, that would be it. A mask on the top of a wind instrument. In a religious service, no less. Okie dokie. Let's see. If people are doing well. Very nice. Trisha in Lighty, if that is the way it is pronounced, Texas. Hi, Trisha.
Hi. It is such a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm so glad that I'm going to have a great Thanksgiving story this year.
I'm very happy
Just by
for
speaking
you.
with you. So I just wanted to relay to you that we're having a big celebration. Our Thanksgiving celebrations usually start Wednesday evening and end Saturday morning. And we will have vaccinated and unvaccinated people there this year. And we had a huge celebration last year as well. So
explain to me, why is your family healthy?
I think, I guess, just taking care of ourselves otherwise.
No. I don't mean physically healthy. I mean emotionally, psychologically healthy.
Gosh, I don't know. I guess,
that your family all got together last Thanksgiving, which is more remarkable than this one, is a statement of a psychologically healthy family. So I'm just curious if you have a thought as to why. Most families have at least one member that isn't psychologically healthy.
Yeah, and it has been amazing, and I kind of think about this every year because the topic always comes up about people not getting along in their families, and I think maybe it's just our love for one another and our love for God. We are people that have different political views, and yet we never let that become a factor in our Thanksgiving celebrations. It's just, I think we truly are just thankful for one another. What the holidays
all
are
right,
about.
You know what? Next year, invite me.
I will if you'll come.
Oh, you won't invite me if I don't come.
That's correct. I don't like being
But you're good. Where is Lighty?
Okay, it is Lighthole, and it's about 30 minutes south of San Antonio.
It's what is it? Lighto?
Lighthole.
Spell it.
Lytle.
Lytle. Lightle.
Correct.
Okay, great. Well, listen, if I come to San Antonio for a talk, you got to introduce yourself.
Perfect. Sounds wonderful.
Thank you so much. Come on, folks. Did she not sound terrific? Yes or no? No. Yes or yes? Lytle, Texas. How do you like that? I wonder how many people outside of San Antonio in all of Texas know of Lytle. A family like each other and get together despite vaccination status, despite political views. Whew. They should do a documentary on that family. Right? There should be some TV documentary. It should be streamed. What a joy to hear about such a family. What was that, Sean? Back in a moment, but first, this is critical. I could save you pain. You know how many people now, I wonder what the number is. I wonder if it's in the millions. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe 500,000. I don't know. I only know everybody that I know. When they have pain, that is muscle or joint, they take Relief Factor. It takes only 3 weeks to discover whether it works. That's what the manufacturer says. Doesn't work in 3 weeks, it probably won't work for you. So try it for $19.95 for the 3 weeks. Doesn't work, cancel your order. That's relieffactor.com, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Last night, the New York Times ran a headline, Social Spending Infrastructure Advances in-House. And I thought to myself, when did socialism go from big government to social spending infrastructure? Social spending infrastructure doesn't mean anything. It's never been a term of art. It doesn't have any meaning. It's a cover term for a vast hose of money on everything. This isn't going to get through the Senate, is it?
Oh, no, I don't think this is going to get through the Senate. And the infrastructure bill got through, but that's going to be about it on these big spending programs. And Pelosi and her crew want $4 trillion in spending. And, of course, I get it. Pelosi wants to pass this thing so that she can be an ambassador and head to Rome. What they're trying to do is cast one vote. And in that one vote, they want to take control of your kids, control of education, control of your health care, federalizing elections, changing immigration policy, then more provisions of the Green New Deal and a socialist economy.
Are you telling me that Speaker Pelosi, we're gonna visit her on the Pope? Is that what you're telling me?
We're hearing that is the goal. I don't talk to her, but what we're hearing is that she is looking forward to becoming an ambassador.
Now, look, Francis and I don't agree on much, but we cannot do that to the Pope.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
SalemNewsChannel.com. I agree with that. I'm on board with this video. It's working out finally. And it's worth watching, especially when I have guests on, because then you get to see the guest. I don't know, seeing me is any thrill, but I think it's fun to see the guest. So this is the Thanksgiving show. Is COVID screwing up your Thanksgiving? So far, everybody is having a regular Thanksgiving. I can't tell you how happy I am. The more Americans defy the herd, the more hope I have for my country. Okay, but it's not all good news. Let's go to Pam in Bellflower, California. Hello, Pam.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, we are having a small Thanksgiving. I'd like to say that I was fully vaccinated in March, and in July I did catch COVID, and I am a teacher in the Los Angeles area. So
wait, you're another example of one having what they call the breakthrough.
Yep. Yes.
Were you shocked?
And I was shocked, yes. And our home Bible study met after being off for a year, and I guess, some of the people were vaccinated, some were not. I didn't question or ask that. And I was the only person who got COVID from the one person who was unknowns to her.
Well, you right now, you're Superwoman.
Yes.
You have enough antibodies to share them.
That's exactly how I feel.
You should sell your antibodies. Wait, so I didn't quite follow. So why are you having a small Thanksgiving?
So we're having a small Thanksgiving, not specifically because of COVID. Before,
all right. Okay.
Just around the time COVID began, my mother-in-law started showing some mild signs of dementia, which, of course, were fully exacerbated since she was isolated for, a year.
Oh, my God.
And so, and it's created in my husband's family a great deal of difficulty. They're a blended family that has done very well, gotten along marvelously, and then through this, my husband said, "Well, I guess we won't be having Thanksgiving this year." And I said, "We absolutely have to have Thanksgiving. Your mother might not even remember who you are next year. We have to have Thanksgiving." So we planned it at a restaurant so that it would be a good neutral place, and only one of his sisters and us and my mother-in-law and our son will be there.
Why?
So it's really tragic. People are choosing sides in how to care for my mother-in-law, beginning with she's fine, she just needs to read more and exercise, all the way to, I don't want to get involved in the middle of it, and there's been a lot of...
this is a subject I should explore. I don't know if it's for a happiness hour, because it's not a happy subject, but although I do unhappy subject on the happiness hour. The number of families adversely affected by the health, by something, I'm not talking about, an unhappy relative, but a sick child or a sick parent or a parent with dementia is so large, and it's so unfair. It's through no fault of anybody. It's not the fault of the child or parent. It's not the fault of the middle generation, the parents. I know a family with a child who's been institutionalized for very severe autism. Autism runs the spectrum. I don't even understand why everybody's called autistic, who is called autistic. There are people who can't function, and there are people on my fireside chat, which I do every week. I've done it for 212 weeks, I think, for PragerU. And so I take questions from mostly young people around the world, and I open up with a video question. So I had one from a young man, I think in Rochester, New York, and he wanted to know my views on autism. And he said he was autistic, but if the question, there's no way you would think he's autistic if you saw him. But anyway, or heard him. But there are people who are so severe that they have to be institutionalized, because in this case, this individual gets violent. And it has affected the family. It has really affected the family. I wonder how many families have been affected. Look at I'm using it because of the last call. There's a lot of tragedy in the world. Okay, everybody, let's go to, wow. Laura in Phoenix, hello.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
First-time caller. I've listened to you for so long and just love you.
Thank you.
This is really hard for me. I lost my husband to Lou Gehrig's disease on April 6th.
How long did he have it? How long did he have it?
He had it for 16 months. He was diagnosed Christmas of 2019 and passed away on April 6th. He's the fourth in his family to die from it. He went the quickest, and we chose not to be vaccinated. His neurologist wanted him to be vaccinated. He chose not to. We've never gotten the flu vaccine. He was the one that actually got me into believing that, my body is my immunity. And he felt that way even in his disease, although he was very respectful of, always wearing his mask. We went through last year living in San Diego while he was in a clinical trial.
All right, hold on. Tell me the rest when we get back.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
I've just heard so much about this, and nobody seems to be taking it seriously.
This is the exact reason that in normal science, this is not normal science by any stretch of the imagination, we do benefit risk analysis. And obviously that is different for each person. But here we're not doing that. We're just saying everybody needs to do this. And we're completely neglecting natural immunity, which is extremely important. We've recognized it for decades and decades before now. Now they won't even want to talk about it or acknowledge it at all.
What do you reckon is behind that? I mean, this is a big thing. What can be behind something like that?
Well, I can't think of any scientific valid reason for doing it. There could be political reasons or other things going on, but I can't think of any scientific reason why you would ignore the evidence and the facts and just push a one-size-fits-all ideology.
We also know that many people have objections to these vaccines because all three of them, in one way or the other, involved aborted children. There's no getting around that. And so if somebody has an objection to that, how is it that the government can wipe away religious liberty and say, you've got to get this, if you want to keep your job, you've got to get this?
For the government to mandate away your religious liberty is a real issue. And even the federal court has recognized that and put a stay on the mandate.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
All right, so let me get to the chase here. Where is my? Here we go, Laura in Phoenix. So, Laura, this Thanksgiving, your late husband. My heart goes out to you about your husband. Please know that his daughter won't let you come Thanksgiving without a mask.
Well, actually, no. I mean, she's back out in another town. I mean, I'm probably already. I was scared to call because if this ever got back to her, she'd be greatly hurt. But I'm planning on going back for Christmas, and she has told me that if I'm not vaccinated, that I would have to wear a mask in the house and stay at least 6 feet away. I wouldn't be able to spend the night. And
is she vaccinated?
Yeah, both she and her husband.
So what are they worried about? What is she worried about? Oh, she got her husband to get vaccinated. He didn't want it.
He didn't want it, and he didn't want her to get it because they were trying to conceive. But she went ahead and got it just before my husband passed, and he had to get it. He's a nurse at a hospital, so he relented and got the vaccine. But when I actually, after I hung up the phone, when she told me that their demand, I called her back. I was scared, but I called her back and I said, "Can you help me understand if you're vaccinated? Why you're saying that I would have to be masked?" And you could tell she wasn't comfortable. She stumbled over her words, and she said this is what she's been told by her doctors.
Probably is. Don't start me with doctors. My view of the medical profession is so low, and it's all new. I never thought ill of the medical profession. From the AMA to the CDC to the NIH to the people supposed to guard children, the Pediatrics Association, they've all been corrupted morally, and they have little wisdom. All right, everybody. Well, everybody else has good reports on Thanksgiving tomorrow. So here's a final request. Go to my website and make a donation to Angel Tree. The best way to express thanks on Thanksgiving is to do a good deed. What they do is they give kids who have a parent in prison, they make a Christmas gift for them. They say it's from the parent, and it's a very special thing. There's a banner at my website for Angel Tree, or call now 888-206-2801, 888-206-2801. I wish you a blessed Thanksgiving from my family to yours.